So depending on where we start the podcast, I'm just going to start narrating. What has just been placed on the couch is a contrabass trombone. And I think as an I would call myself an expert of having to carry a large instrument around. And I would say that's a rather large instrument. That gives me the same vibes as a contrabassoon, where it's like too big to be allowed.
Too big for an airplane where you have to buy an extra seat.
Jay, my first question is, at what point did you realize that you could get bigger? Hi, everyone. Welcome to OSA Backstage. I'm Danny Meyer, and on today's episode, we are starting April off with a bang. That's right, bass trombonist Jay Wise. You know what? He brought props. It's Jay. I think the intro pretty much writes itself. You're going to love this. Enjoy.
Are we on?
We're on. Now? We're just going to start.
Wait a minute. I have more prompts.
If there's ever a podcast episode to watch the video for,
this might be
the one.
Mm-hmm. I'll never forget Nick coming in and insisting on doing props, but not allowing audio descriptions of the props, because he wanted mass chaos. Jay, can I switch spots with you so that you are staring into the camera, or would you prefer? Hey,
I can do that.
Or you can sit there.
We can move your chair.
Okay.
We can move.
But
the chairs.
I might not be able to get back up again if I sit back on that.
Is this space?
Here, you take that chair.
Yeah.
They know what I look like. At this point, now I will change direction whenever you want to demonstrate.
Okay.
Okay. So Jay, this is an abomination. But would you start by introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Jay Wise.
And you are
I'm the guest of your podcast today.
You're the bass trombonist of the Omaha Symphony.
That's also true. Yep.
Okay, so are you would you consider yourself specifically a bass trombonist, or are you a trombonist who happens to dabble in the dark arts?
Well, pretty much everybody who plays bass trombone started out on tenor trombone. I would say more than 90%.
Okay.
Started on tenor trombone. And there's acoustically no difference between the bass trombone I usually play in the orchestra and the tenor trombone that Jason and Pat play. They're acoustically identical. They're both 9-foot B-flat tube with an attachment on it to play lower. And my bass trombone sometimes has an extra valve, but basically it's the same instrument.
Okay.
But it's designed in a way to favor the low range of the instrument. So it's a little bigger diameter tubing, a little bigger bell.
Okay, so did you also start on tenor trombone?
I did, yeah.
And where did music start for you?
I started in 4th grade in St. Louis. And I don't remember exactly why I chose the trombone, except my neighbor Charlie, who was my good friend, was a year older than me in school, and he had started on trombone, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I played the trombone also. Did you
conscript other neighborhood children to join your Music Man like?
There were a few, but I think, the conspiracy happens at the school level, where they get you in line and say, get in line and try these instruments, and you're tall, so you're going to play trombone, whatever it was. So.
Okay, so you started in 4th grade.
Yep.
And you started with trombone.
Yep.
You didn't have any musical background before then.
Not really. My dad was an engineer. My mom was a nurse, and so there was really no music in my family at all. And they never really understood it, and but they always supported me, and they went to some pretty awful concerts. I'm sure of it. They always came to everything, so I'm really grateful for the support that I got, because they could have pushed back. Even when I said I wanted to major in music, I noticed them biting the inside of their cheek, but they didn't say anything. So
okay, so they knew it was important to you.
Yeah.
But your first this could be something fun was literally your friend Charlie coming home and saying, look what I started.
Pretty much, yeah. And we went to the same school, so I saw the band, and I saw him playing in the band and everything. So,
what made you stick with trombone?
I'm not really sure. And when I graduated from high school, I didn't really have a major in mind at all. And I was working construction in Alaska that summer, working at a church with a church group. And I called up my dad And I said, hey, they offered me some more work here. I could stay here in the fall. And he said, no, you're going to college. And so he went to Arizona State University and did the walkthrough registration for me, where you get the card in your classes and everything. And he said, well, what do you want to major in? I said, well, I don't know. I kind of like music. And so he signed me up for music classes.
Wow. Pins everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so you liked it enough, but it wasn't even like it was just. Here's the thing I love to do, but why were you in Alaska?
I just liked, kind of being in the band and the social part of it and everything like that. I didn't really see myself as doing music as a career or anything like that. But when I got to Arizona State and met the teacher, Mr. Wilson, I loved him, and I was like number 21 of 20 trombone majors, and I decided this is pretty cool and I want to get better. And I was getting up at 6 a.m. and practicing, and
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's okay. I do want to know why you were in Alaska, of all places.
It was a church group that we were able to raise some money and go help build this church in the town of Yakutat, which is on the southern coast of Alaska, kind of up the coast from Anchorage. And we just went. I was there for a month.
And you
pounding nails in the rain. So.
I was gonna say, I bet Arizona probably looks pretty good.
Yeah, after that, yeah.
Okay, so you fell in love with the process of getting better. You're waking up at 6 a.m. Were you just playing in bands still, or did you start playing in orchestra? Like, when did orchestra start?
Orchestra started a little bit later. So Mr. Wilson said, you're not doing anything except playing in one band that you have to play in. You're going to practice, because I wasn't ready to play in ensembles really. And at the end of that year, I had taken a ski trip to Flagstaff, which is about 140 miles north of Phoenix, up in the mountains, and I fell in love with it. And I found out they had a college, so I transferred. And I told Mr. Wilson that I was going to transfer to the Northern, and he said, "Well, I was going to put you in the orchestra."
No.
So I get to Flagstaff, and I'm just playing in probably the concert band and the jazz band, and the orchestra director came to me and said, "Hey, we need a bass trombone player in the orchestra. Do you have a bass trombone?" And I said, "No." And he said, "I think a school has one." And so they found me the school bass trombone, and they're playing Shostakovich No. 5, the last movement. And it was like, I'd never heard of that. Didn't even know what it was. It's like, this is amazing music. And it was a small college, didn't have a contrabassoon player. The principal bass player played the contrabassoon solo.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. But so you basically got thrown into the deep end. Like, this is what it means to be a powerful brass player in an orchestra, like the epitome of this music.
Pretty much, yeah.
Did that just change your entire life in a moment?
Well, it contributed to it for sure, and it was a totally different environment being in Arizona State, which is a very big music school, it is today. Northern maybe had 100 majors, and so the people that I sort of started to talk about music with and learn about music from my peers were not trombone players. It was a bassoon player and a horn player I really liked, and a trumpet player. So people that were playing different instruments. So I'm seeing it from their perspective also. Just, how do we contribute and make ourselves better musicians? Yeah.
Okay, so you're becoming my bass teacher used to talk about this too. It's like, I'm trying not to train bass players. I'm trying to train musicians. Like, that's the end goal. Yeah,
so your question about do I see myself primarily as a trombone player or a bass trombone player? I mean, the trombone is a medium. I'm thinking of music. I'm always wanting to find out how I can be a better musician and contribute more to the ensemble that I'm in and the people that are around me.
So what does that mean for you when you we'll skip ahead a little bit. Like, when you show up for work and your role for the day is bass trombone, is there a pocket that you kind of sit yourself in, or how do you show up for work?
Yeah, I think of where I am in the orchestra as being like a member of a chamber ensemble, like a quartet. So the people in my quartet are like the timpani, the bassoons, the basses. To me, those are the people that I had to fit my sound in with and my contribution in with are those people. And then secondarily, up the brass section through the trombones and the trumpets.
Why the timpani?
I play the timpani part all the time. It's very common that it's me and Jack.
Do you think that writing is because you're reinforcing the tonic and the dominant so much, or is it because you're reinforcing that deepest level of power drive? Like what?
It's both, yeah, and it's definitely articulation and sound, you know, but it is also harmonically what you're talking about, tonic and dominant. I mean, that's where we live, you know.
Okay, so you're sitting within your custom quartet. You have the outer quartet of the brass section. What about the moments, I keep thinking of Tchaikovsky 6, where I feel like there's this great Chicago Symphony recording where the bass trombonist is just laying waste to the entire orchestra.
Victor called that place the hammer of fate.
Okay, so what lets you realize I'm no longer responsible for the quartet? For this moment, it is just me.
It's usually pretty obvious, you know, when that happens. It's in the music, or it's in, you know we study the music as much as we can to find out that role, you know, and if it's a place where I'm supposed to come out, I do my best, you know.
It is an instrument uniquely qualified to carry when it needs to really pop out of the texture. Okay, so you were at school, you were asked to play bass trombone for Shostakovich 5. Your world kind of got realigned. How much orchestra music, how much did you seriously consider orchestras when you graduated?
One of the things about where I was living in Flagstaff is it's kind of a summer tourist community. And at the time, it had a festival orchestra, a professional festival orchestra, and it was sort of like an Aspen model, where the faculty of the music camp would be the principals in the orchestra, and then some of their students would come in and sit in sections. So that orchestra was basically the summer home of the Indianapolis Symphony and the Phoenix Symphony at the time. And Eisler Solomon, who was the Indianapolis music director, was the conductor. And so I got to play third trombone a couple different times in that orchestra as a student. And then later on, when I came back, I got a contract and got to do it as a professional, both on bass trombone and later on as principal. Also, I played principal in that orchestra.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, I go from hearing, you know, kind of a average college orchestra, you know, where everybody's doing their best, and all of a sudden, here's all these really great pros living in the dorms and practicing their instruments, and I hear that, you know, and like, this is what it's supposed to be like, you know. I started to think that was something I might be able to do, because I just love listening to those guys, you know.
Were there any people in particular, like any faculty member or professionals, that you just kind of gravitated towards that you remember?
There was the principal horn player of the Indianapolis Symphony, Larry Philpott, used to come and play in that orchestra, and really wonderful soloistic horn player, and just a guy that was really easy to get to know, you know. So that's someone that I definitely thought a lot about when I think, you know, this is what it's going to be like if you're going to be playing music all the time, you know.
Brass sections have such a there's a club aspect to, I think, joining a brass section. I see it every time, like when Seth came, and anytime there's a new person, there's just this feeling of like, we're so glad you're here, welcome in. Did you feel that as a student? Was there, or is there a sense?
Somewhat, but I mean, I didn't really have the credentials or the experience. You know, I was not on that level. I could not play like those guys, and I didn't have the experience. But I enjoyed watching the way that they interacted with each other, and the way they would try to give each other a hard time, or sometimes give the conductor a hard time. And it was kind of it was a lot of fun, and kind of opened my eyes, you know. And they had a guest conductor one summer that wasn't particularly popular, and Jack Rattery, the principal clarinet player, the conductor, is like on his way to the upbeat. Rattery stands up. What are those microphones doing? Very funny. We had Maurice Parris, you know, who was Jason's orchestra conductor at Queens College, and he's kind of a Bernstein protege. He was the conductor there a couple of summers too. Really great musician. How
did you know when the brass section liked a conductor? How do you know now if a brass section loves the conductor?
You know, we try to give them everything we can. You know, I mean, they're up there trying to do a job too, and I don't really try to pass a lot of judgments about conductors if I can avoid it. We're all trying to make the same thing happen, which is the concerts. I don't see a lot of animosity going on. In the old days, you would. I think that the orchestra community in general has become a lot more welcoming both to colleagues and to outsiders and to conductors. It seems like it's a better environment than it used to be.
Yeah. How, when you did feel like, when you got to come back to this festival, and now you're there as a professional, like you're playing in the section, you're playing as bass principal, was there kind of an immediate difference that you felt within yourself, or did you see the work that you'd done to get to that point?
And a lot of it was the same people that I had seen years earlier, so I knew them, and so I kind of felt like I had to justify my existence, and so I worked pretty hard to make sure that I wasn't going to stand out.
Yeah. So does that mean like studying how they're playing and matching their tones?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you get to Omaha?
I was working on my degree at University of Iowa, and I'm playing in the Des Moines Opera as a member of the banda in Aida, and they did a full blown all stops out Aida at the big auditorium in Des Moines. Usually Des Moines Opera plays in that hall in Indianola, it's a college auditorium. But they did I think 5 shows of Aida at the Veterans Auditorium in Des Moines. It's a big concert hall, and full banda. I think we had like 15 people backstage in the banda. Oh my God! Right when and they did the full procession of the Grand March, with animals and everything.
Did they have an elephant?
They had, and it is the famous elephant that was also here in Omaha. You know that story? Yeah. It was the same guy running the animals. They didn't have any mishaps, but there's quite a few camels that were coming across the stage, and they're going right by the band, right when you have to take your biggest breath.
So they smell wonderful.
Oh yeah, it was aromatic for sure. So anyway, I'm playing in the banda, and I'm a poor college student, so we're camping out in Des Moines, like at a campground. And I called my wife and called Marcia to see what's going on. She says, "Hey, some guy named Saker wants to meet you in Omaha. They've got a job opening." And I said, "Okay," because my teacher was a real advocate. John Hill. He made sure that if there was anything out there that might work for you, including I used to sub for him on freelance gigs and stuff like that, So a college job came open, and he wanted to make sure that I was considered and I knew about it, and so I got the interview. And came here that later that July, and got the job, and then we moved here in August. That was 1984. Okay. So I moved here to teach, right. And then the university system is in financial trouble, and since I didn't have a tenure track job, within 3 years I was demoted to part time. But it was right around the same time that the orchestra, which had been on strike, came off the strike. And my predecessor, Dave Wamper, was in Mexico playing in an orchestra down there. And so, and I had been subbing with the orchestra a little bit on tenor trombone, but Jim knew I also played bass. And so they asked me to sub a couple of weeks at the beginning of the season when they first came back. And then later on, I got a contract for the entire season as a one-time. And I knew there was going to be an audition in May, so I did nothing but live bass trombone from basically November through May, and ended up getting the job. So. Oh, man.
So you were in the right place with the right circumstances at the right time.
I mean, how many times does that happen? All the time.
Yeah.
That's how it always happens. So I was in the right place at the right time, and somehow was successful. So.
Were you surprised at all that you ended up with an orchestra job, or had it started becoming more of the goal?
Well, I had already been playing in Cedar Rapids Symphony, which is now Orchestra Iowa. I played there for 3 years when I was a student, and so I was kind of used to the routine. And I before that I played in Midland, Odessa, Texas, 2 years in the symphony down there. So I kind of, both of those are kind of like Lincoln Symphony, about a concert a month, maybe a little more. But I was starting to get into the whole routine of what it's like to prepare a concert and perform a concert. And then the university orchestras at Iowa, they did a professional schedule, basically. It's 5-6 rehearsals and a concert.
Okay.
And so that that model, I was kind of ready for it. I knew what to expect and how to do it. So I think it was a little bit of an adjustment here, and I had my moments that weren't as good as they could have been, but I felt like the guys that I played with were really supportive of me, and so it definitely helped me adjust to the new environment.
Everybody gets their moments when they start. I think it's kind of, there's this feeling of like, oh, baby's first job, but like it doesn't really matter how old you are when you join the orchestra. You're still learning how to be a part of that orchestra. Yeah,
the tradition in those days is if you made an obvious mistake, people would collect change and start handing you change. And I played in a particularly big rest in a rehearsal one time, and I got a whole envelope full of change. It was well deserved.
Because they tell you in youth orchestra, like, if you're going to make a mistake, make a confident mistake. And the reality is like, no, don't make a mistake, and don't make it confidently. Like, whatever you do, if you're second guessing yourself, like you play that pianissimo, but it's so hard. Like, that's what you learn growing up. Like, go forth, be valiant. And it's kind of a hard instrument to.
Yeah, I mean, if you get an upbeat and you breathe, it's going to come out.
I think everyone's allowed I call it the 2%. Like, everyone is allowed it's obvious that we all operate at a much higher level than that. Your mistake rate, whatever, is probably 0.002%. If you were to say every note that you ever played throughout a concert cycle. But when something happens, I always go, that's the human that we're allowed to be.
It's the beauty of live music.
Exactly.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
I dated a timpanist once, and we like left an opera, and he's like, okay, so I messed up 4 times. Here. He's like, you can count your mistakes. That Idina Menzel interview, it was at New Year's or something, and she said something on the lines of, if you hit, I want to say it was 75% of the notes every night. Her argument was Broadway performers are singing so many performances that if they hit 75%, you're doing a really good job. And I think every classical musician in the universe was like,
if you hit 75%, you're out of that prelim before before the round even finishes. Yeah. So I call it the 2% because it feels good, but I think everyone does operate at a much higher level, and it's okay. We can cut ourselves that tiny bit of slack.
Things happen.
Yeah.
So you've got lots of change in an envelope, and obviously you never made that mistake.
When did there might have been a bill even.
Did you ever give that to someone else?
Was Craig here when you started?
Sure. Yeah, I was the young person in that section, and so Jim, of course, is the principal. Trombone, Tim Howe, second, Fuller on tuba, and then trumpets were Erickson, Bircher, and Daryl Stellick. So I played with that same group for quite a while.
So you've watched your entire section change over the course.
I'm now the senior person.
Oh man, how's that feel?
I'm also the oldest person in the orchestra.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Wow. How's that feel?
It's all right. It doesn't bother me. I don't have the longest tenure.
But you're just
Yeah.
You're literally the wisest person in the orchestra. When did you? Was there any adjustment period to being primarily a bass trombonist?
Well, all my degrees are in tenor trombone, and I never really studied bass trombone. I mean, I took lessons from Donald Knobb when I lived in Texas. He's a bass trombone player. I took tenor lessons from him because I was playing tenor trombone at the time. But I owned a bass trombone. I've owned a couple of bass trombones. When I was in Texas, I had to sell my bass trombone to put a transmission in my car. Everybody's done something like that. But when I got here, I realized that everybody played everything. Okay. And so I would go to freelance gigs, and the sections are all mixed up. People were just playing whatever they got called to play. And so I think the main reason I started playing bass trombone is because when the phone rings, you don't want to say no. You want to say, yeah, I can play that instrument and I own one, and and then you try to prove it when you get there. So my experience on bass trombone is mostly just learning how to play the instrument in a way that works in an orchestral context.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like it's become more natural to you, or would you still say
definitely.
it's a 3? Okay.
Oh yeah.
So when you go back to tenor, or we're gonna talk about these things in a second. Is there a mental shift that you have to make?
Oh yeah. It's a different tone concept, and it's a little bit different mechanically because you have to play higher in the instrument. But basically, we're just vibrating through a tube, and it's the same on anything,
So tell us. I'm going to move out of the way because I want people to be able to see this. You went from having to sell your previous bass trombone to put a new transmission, and now you have quite the collection. What in the world?
It's a contrabass trombone. It's in the key of F, and so the fundamental. So that's the fundamental. That's the low F, and then with the triggers, I'll go down to C. So that A is the low A on the piano. That's the lowest note on the piano.
Is that how low can a tuba go?
It depends on the tuba,
Okay.
on the instrument, but I mean this is acoustically equivalent to like an F tuba, which is what the kind of the high tuba if they're going to play Vaughan Williams concerto or something like that. That's the F tuba, and so.
Why?
Before about the 1970s, the only thing you ever played contrabass trombone in was Wagner,
Okay.
or Girl Leader, by Schoenberg, something like that, German music basically. But ever since Hollywood, movie composers have discovered the contrabass trombone.
Okay.
And so if you're going to play bass trombone in movies in Hollywood, you have to have a contra. And if you're going to play tuba in that same environment, you have to have a cimbasso. So that's the double for tuba players.
So that's why I've seen this before at work.
Yeah, because Pirates of the Caribbean, Frozen.
Frozen.
Yeah.
Frozen, which by the way had the biggest tuba solo moments. I was like, do you think Jabba the Hutt? And then suddenly it's like, no, Frozen has the other big tuba. But okay, so Frozen, Pirates.
Star Trek, the one that we did a few years ago, what was the name of that one? I forget the name of that one. But it was a Star Trek movie. And then coming up, we've got there are certain places where I might choose to play contra in the Star Wars that we've got coming up in May. But.
So what would this make easier than your standard bass trombone?
Well, for me, it's more I can play almost as low on a regular bass trombone as I can on this.
Okay.
Pretty close, but it's just the scale is a lot bigger. It sounds different,
Does it require more effort to play?
You shouldn't really be forcing anything, but it's in the upper part of the instrument. It's more efficient. You get more sound for the amount of air you're putting through. But I can put a nice, easy flow of air through it, So, it just kind of has a nice, easy tone, but I'm not going to do it now, but it can also get pretty loud and raucous. And
Yeah, I don't. It's built like a weapon.
So is this like for the loud stuff going to sound
Low.
more different? The low stuff is going to sound different than a bass trombone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, okay.
So we have, did I see that we've got Fanfare Liturgy coming up again next year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Will you use that for that?
Yeah, it's not written, but it's really great for the chant in the last movement, which is today's Good Friday. It's the Good Friday procession, right? It's the end of Fanfare Liturgy.
So this is Tomasi that we're doing on Jocelyn 1 in October of next season. So it's for brass and percussion, and it's wonderful. So you have to come see it. But you'll use that.
Yeah. So the Good Friday procession is this chant that starts a long ways away, and then it gets louder and louder and louder, and more instruments get involved and everything. But and that chant goes through the entire piece. Yeah, it's a wonderful piece. You asked me about, was it 5 or 6 years ago when we did it? for a brass ensemble piece. I said, well, absolutely, Tomasi, Fanfare Liturgy. It's
I'm really glad it came back up.
wonderful piece.
That's Lee Mills is going to conduct that, but it's one of those like there's a couple just all brass fanfare stuff, like the Ducat Fanfare de la Paris is one I love too, and
but this is a complete 4-movement piece with a story and everything, and a fantastic. The evangelist is the tenor trombone. It's just this wonderful piece. I've done it a lot of times, and when it came up 5 or 6 years ago, I'm thinking, the chant would be great on contra, so I just decided to play it on contra.
How long have you owned this?
Oh, maybe 6 years, something like that.
What made you finally decide? Because with my husband, I know that like he'll borrow instruments and he'll flirt with the idea of maybe buying one someday, but like it takes something to tip him into.
It was the first time of Pirates of the Caribbean, and I didn't have a contra, and I played it on bass trombone, which is there's one note in it that's absolutely impossible.
Okay.
It's not on the horn, and right around the same. So if we finished playing it, I didn't think I'd ever see it again. It turns out we did, but Pat likes to troll German eBay.
Yeah. He does.
And he found this at a pro shop in Germany. It had been an opera company's horn, and they sold it to buy a new tine or something. But it's a great configuration for me because it's the entire configuration of the horn is exactly a perfect fourth lower than my bass trombone.
Okay.
So the triggers work exactly the same. It's just a perfect fourth lower. So.
I love the idea of an opera company selling brass instruments, like some sort of rental car company, where like they get put out to pasture and then someone else gets to use them. That's hysterical. Okay, so my husband's responsible for this.
Yeah, and it was an incredible price, and I thought, because I knew what the new ones were going for. This is an Alexander German-made horn, and Matt Erickson, who's a good friend, and he's a worse gearhead than I am. He has lots of he has his own contra. He has a Tine, which is a real expensive German make, and he had a bunch of mouthpieces, of course. And so, I got a mouthpiece from him that works a lot better with this horn. So all of a sudden, it's something that just plays very easily.
Is it required that you have to be taller than the contrabass trombone? Because you and Matt Erickson are both extraordinarily tall people.
I've got a picture of the two of us that I'll send you, and Matt's that much taller than I am. Mm-hmm. So yeah, with the contrabasses. So.
Okay, so this monstrosity is not the only thing you brought.
No.
Yeah. So, what do you want to show off next? Because
you had asked me one of the questions about what composers I like to write for bass trombone.
Sure did.
And my favorite, believe it or not, is Mozart.
Okay.
Explain.
Yeah.
Say more.
Well, for one thing, the Requiem.
Yeah.
And but it's not the only piece of church music that Mozart wrote. Also 2 sets of Vespers, and there's also the C minor Mass, right? And so all of those have wonderful trombone parts because he uses the trombone in the way that his predecessors, especially Venetian composers, used trombones to double voices. And so it's a tradition that I think composers who wrote especially choral music and especially liturgical or oratorial choral music, they're looking back. They're looking back at Baroque music, and so the use of the trombones in those pieces is very vocal, and it's something that I don't know. I just really love doing it. And so in the Requiem, there's a scene in Amadeus where he's composing the Requiem on his deathbed. Salieri's writing it down. We know this exactly how it happened. And he's composing the Confutatis, right? And he's dictating, and he actually has trombone play the part because it's the beginning statement of Confutatis is the bass trombone and the tenors and basses. And then that is repeated in the tenor range and the alto range. So in Baroque and classical choral writing, bass trombone doubles basses, tenor trombone doubles tenors, altos are doubled by the alto trombone, and I guess the sopranos don't need anybody doubling them. That's a great example of something that's soloistic, but yet it has to blend with voices.
Why do you think Mozart? This could be for either one of you. Why do you think, or how do you think Mozart knew to do that when you don't necessarily see his contemporaries doing the same thing?
Well, probably the example that he might have known would have been Handel, Israel and Egypt, which has extensive trombone doubling also. It's the only oratorio of Handel I know that uses trombones. There are probably more, but it's the same idea where you're doubling voices, and so you have to choose equipment that works for that. And you also have to have the idea among the section. How are we going to complement voices without completely taking over?
There's also actually just realizing that there's so many composers who are working with patrons and they don't have access to a trombonist at whatever court that they have, or they don't have access to those types of musicians. They're probably not going to be able to write for them. But he clearly had access to them, and he knew that he wanted to do it. So how do you, as a section, like if we're going into a Mozart Requiem, are the four of you, or the three of you rather, talking it out first, or are you just naturally attuned at this point where you're listening and you're supporting?
We talk about equipment a little bit just to see what we're going to play, because we usually play size smaller equipment when we're playing classical and earlier music. I don't think so. I mean, we've all done it enough that we kind of know what to do, and it tends to be smaller choruses sometimes. It's not always 500 people in the
right.
of the high school chorus thing that we do, the choral collaborative. And so you have to be sensitive to that, and you have to choose equipment that is going to complement that and not get in the way. And it's more the way you play rather than what you play.
So tell us about this, because I don't think I've seen that bell before.
Yeah.
So this is it's carbon fiber, and I got it about a month ago, and I haven't taken it off. I love it. It's really great. Besides, I mean, it's not. I don't know. I think it sounds like a trombone. I just played it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like a trombone. It's about a pound lighter. Yeah.
Because there are P-bones.
Yeah. This is not plastic. It's carbon fiber.
Right. So, P-bones are often like bright green and whatnot.
Yeah.
So carbon fiber. So this is it's a pound lighter. So does that help with the sound? Does it help with the physical act of playing the instrument?
More physical.
Okay.
But one of the side benefits to me has been it seems like attacks are a little better, more immediate, and it seems like I'm able to get like the excerpt that I just played. That might have been mezzo piano, mezzo forte, but I didn't have to put a lot of effort into it for that to sound and stay sounding.
Wow.
So.
Okay.
On average, how much do they weigh?
I weighed them and I forgot to remember what it is, but I think it's about 6.5 pounds if I have the brass bell, about 5.5 with the carbon fiber. So and this is one that I'm holding like this a lot.
That is, and that's something that Pat will talk about. It's like, what kind of workout is he going to do for the day before he plays? Because if you get sore, you get stuck in a position, or you have fatigue, it's like, what can you do to make sure that you can hold your...
Well, I mean, we all do it. What we do is so physical. Playing the bass, conducting. We have to stay in shape. It's your body has to be able to do what it needs to do. Or we're in big trouble.
And you make adjustments as you go.
I think so. Yeah.
So is this a misconception that the trombone is resting on your shoulder? It doesn't actually. Right. It doesn't actually rest. Yeah. You're holding it.
Yeah.
Completely. Okay. Yep. And your elbow is not like against your body. You have to hold that. Wow.
Yeah. So it's all this muscle group right in the shoulders. So.
Is that a rude wake up call for a lot of students?
The students most of them are in reasonably good shape, and their bodies haven't started to deteriorate like mine has. And so that it doesn't really cause a problem for them that I've seen. and they're playing a smaller instrument with no trigger and everything, so it's a little lighter weight. So the student instruments.
So they're getting used to it.
Seems like it. Seems like it.
Okay. You have an even smaller instrument over there, and I'm intrigued. Yes. I like that we're scaling down. Like,
Well, we're actually not scaling down.
oh, it's just thinner.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So bass sack butt.
I'm sorry, Jay. The little red thing makes me think of like one of those play like punching.
Yeah, but the slide is so long you have to have a handle. So yeah, and so this is in exactly the same key as the key of F as a contrabass trombone.
What?
It's just tubing length, right? So 12-foot F. It's acoustically the same as a French horn, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and so the reason I brought this is because I get to plug Chamber Music Society.
Love it.
So the final concert of Chamber Music Society in June is a Baroque concert that Sarah Craner has curated, and it's Latin American music of the 1600s. So basically, Europeans, Spanish and French that went to South America brought their music with them, and so a lot of that music, it's like Gabrielli.
Yeah. It's glorious. I'm super excited for her because she's.
And so she needed 3 sack butts. And so this is the bass, and then Jason and Pat have tenors, which we've gotten them.
Okay, and how tiny are they compared to what this?
Well, it's acoustically, the tenor sack butts are the same length as that. So
Okay.
9-foot B flat, so it's just a regular trombone. In fact, in German, they call it a Gemeinposaune, a regular trombone. Yeah. And so, and it's because of the human body.
Yeah.
That it's the instrument that best fits our body, and we can get to all the notes.
Is Pat also playing a tenor?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
They make an alto. I don't know if we're gonna need one. If we need one, I don't know where to find one. I found these 3, but I don't know where to find the others.
So what is that? What does that feel like to play in comparison to your usual weaponry?
The sack butts were made to play along with voices, and up until around 1830, the trombone was the only fully chromatic brass instrument. Everything else just played overtone series, people call notes,
So the trombones are the only ones who don't have to show up with all like the various the various.
It's all right here.
Crooks.
You just change the length.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So they weirdly were already ahead of their time. They had
The trombone is one of the oldest instruments in the orchestra. There's a functioning trombone in a museum in Germany called the Neuschel trombone from 1557, and it plays.
Wow.
It looks a lot like this. And in fact, that's my business card, and that is a woodcut from Pretorius. So the Renaissance scholar Pretorius wrote a 3-volume treatise on music and musical instruments, and so that's a woodcut from 1619, I think.
I'm gonna see if I can nicely show this to the camera real fast.
So that shows an alto trombone, a tenor trombone, and 2 bass trombones.
Wow. You also get Jay's cell phone number and his email if you're interested.
And it's got a nice sound, it's sort of vocal, So this is a pavane.
How unfamiliar is it to go to this pulley, this additional slide thing?
It's crazy.
Yeah. Do you feel like is that
I played this instrument years ago when we did a concert with Alan Dean. You remember that concert?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had 2 sack butts, and then Alan and Craig played cornetos.
Yeah.
And so I already had this horn once from Jim Gray, Colorado, and I got it from him again. So I've played it before, and it's not quite as intimidating as it was, but it's still, it's brand new. And you watch, the thing about our colleagues in Italy and Germany and England is that they study these instruments like as their main instrument. You major in Baroque oboe, you major in Baroque violin, cornetto, they're their main instruments. And so you watch these videos of people playing like Gabrielli or something, or Handel on the original instruments, and they're just totally comfortable. That's what they play. We, on the other hand, have to learn how to play them all over again. So
do you have to dedicate specific time, like this next hour is just going to be sackbut time, and then I know I'll need like 15 minutes to get back into regular trombone, or is it usually the opposite, where like you just need?
I don't have any music yet, so I don't know what it's going to take to learn this concert. Mm-hmm. But I don't really feel the need that like I have to delegate practice time or anything. It's just you practice something until you feel pretty good on, and move on to whatever else is on your stack.
Mm-hmm. No, so speaking of stacks, you have one more.
Oh, I brought that. So if you want to pull that book out and take the, so that is the bass trombone Get a Job book.
Nice. Okay, this
from the Minnesota Orchestra audition in 2012.
Oh my God!
And so if you want to know what you have to learn. The bass trombone audition. That's it right there.
So the first thing I'm noticing is that it's huge. It's an absolutely huge amount of music. Do you and you put this all together just for
I did. Yep.
So do you use this to scare students? Is this?
It's just something I have handy in my studio in case I need something, because I know pretty much anything that anybody's working on, if they're going to take auditions or prepare orchestral material, it's going to be in that book.
So you did say, so you brought up Mozart. Like, here's the composer I look forward to most playing. And he is on here. But because this is a bass trombone book, it's magic flute that's on here and not the requiem.
Yeah, well, that to me, that's a mistake because there's almost nothing to do in magic flute. I love the magic flute. It's a masterpiece. And probably, probably the top 4 or 5 operas, in my book. Just because it's such an amazing piece of music. The trombone playing happens only in the ceremonial parts in the second act where Zoroastro is
doing his thing.
He's doing things, and he's either talking to his brothers in the Brotherhood, or he's consoling his daughter, or whatever. Those are the places where the trombones play, and then right at the end also. So very little, but the church music should always be on all auditions, and we always put it on auditions here.
Nice. Because you want to hear that style.
Well, and
sensitivity.
it's technical. I mean, it's pages and pages of 16th notes because we're playing right along with the voices.
I'm also noticing, there's. It just So the Chicago Symphony does this, where they don't necessarily give you excerpts; they just give you symphonies.
Yes.
So it's like
we did that here too.
The entire part.
The entire Bruckner 7 and the entirety of Bruckner 8. Sure, why not?
It's all in there.
All of Mahler 7. All of it.
Yeah.
All of Respighi, Pines of Rome and Fountains of Rome. All of Pictures at an Exhibition. All of Tchaikovsky 6. Why not? Oh, at least they were nice with Wagner. At least they only gave you a scene or something. What do you... okay, so let's say this is on your stand. And you're bracing yourself to start working on an audition. What is the thing that requires the most getting into shape for? What is the thing that's beyond music that you have to concentrate on?
Well, technically, I'd say it's Fountains of Rome.
Okay. What is Fountains of Rome? I have an inkling, but...
Well... It's one of these excerpts that it's really technical and it's busy and you've got to make all the changes, and it's
so
loud and it's crazy and it's all over the place and I got about 50% of it, but and the crazy thing about it is that you can listen to the Chicago Symphony play it with Charlie Vernon, the loudest bass trombone player on the planet, and you can't hear it. You cannot hear it.
Because it's just almost
because the orchestra is the big fountain, and so everybody's playing everything all the time. You can't really pick out one voice.
So would you say that excerpt is balanced out by looking for are there excerpts that you would only play with the rest of the section as part of the audition? Are there excerpts that they would expect you to play with maybe the tuba player or?
I played with the section for my audition here, and we did Tchaikovsky 6, the end. And because to me, that tells you a lot about how you fit in a section, how you make everybody sound, because it's very soft and it's very sensitive, and it has to be seamless. Anything else, I don't know if it makes that much difference to hear it in a section, and I think probably that has gone away for auditions. I don't know if we're going to be doing that anymore because of privacy issues and stuff. Yeah.
Do you remember when we had Juliet and Kevin, and they were talking about what violin twos do for violin ones, and that you actually want more from your violin two sections of the violin one. Do you ever feel like that?
Yeah, I play a supporting role a lot, and usually it's so playing into the tuba sound is something I do a lot. So whatever sound they're making, I try to make sure that what they're doing is surrounding what I'm doing. I'm sort of providing another color within that sound, but it has to be the same sound.
Yeah. Is there an excerpt in here? Like if you had a student come in and they thought they were just king of the hill, is there an excerpt in here that you would pull out to knock them on their butt?
Franc D minor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's all over the instrument. In particular, it's high.
Nice.
Beethoven 9. Because the place in the last movement where the soldiers chorus happens, right? And it's the tenor and the men and da-da, 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 right? And then that completely da-da-da-da-da, and the next thing that happens. And it's just a glorious place.
Yes.
I love playing it. And the last time we did it with Victor, he cuts off the orchestra and he says, "Jay, this is not bass trombone solo with choral accompaniment." And I said, "Have him sing louder."
I have a distinct memory of Thomas Wilkins weaving his way through the orchestra to kiss you on the forehead, and I think it was after Polovetsy and
Yeah, because he likes that low D, and
Oh.
he gets a big smile on his face when I play that low D really loud. So I don't know what it is about that. He just likes it.
That's awesome, Jay. This has been great. I love everything about this. I love this monstrosity. We have all the instruments here. You brought multiple in, but our last question for you. If you had 30 minutes on stage, no consequences, and you could try anything, what would you try?
I did think about this. And nobody wants to hear bass trombone for 30 minutes. But there's a couple of bucket lists that I've had. And one of them is Symphony of Psalms, Stravinsky, which is, to me, one of his great choral masterpieces. And it's the low part of the orchestra. It doesn't have violins or violas. It just has basses and cellos and then trombones, two pianos. It's almost right as Spring without violins, as far as the instrumentation. But anyway, I've never gotten to play it, so that's on my list. And then, so that's about 24 minutes.
Perfect.
But I'm going to take up the rest of it with my next request, which is Miraculous Mandarin.
Okay. Nice.
And if you do the whole thing, it's right at about 30 minutes. It's a really funny way that he constructed it, because if you want to play the suite, you just stop 10 minutes earlier. And then if you play the whole ballet, then you continue. I don't know what that's all about. But
He was like, I'm done summarizing.
I'm not going to write a whole nother piece. So
he's like, right
we
here.
want it shorter. Okay. Stuff.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
That's it. Easy peasy.
There's the one thing I want to talk about. That's that picture.
Please.
And so we were talking about Bartok.
Yeah.
And one of the most famous trombone things in Bartok is the bass trombone glissando. And it turns out that it's impossible on only one instrument that I have here today. because it's a glissando from low B to F, and that's off of this instrument. And I probably could play it on that horn because it has the low B to F glissando, but I don't have a handle on that slide. It's
Okay.
not. But the bass saxophone will play that. So this is an instrument that Steve Shire's built, and if you look at it, it's a double slide. And I think you probably saw it when we played Concerto for Orchestra here last time.
It's a double.
The bass trombone that Bartok would have known would have been an F bass trombone with a handle on it, so you could play from B to F. And play that glissando. It's impossible on pretty much every instrument that anybody has anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you have to. You'd have to change trigger, so it's not really glissando.
Yeah.
You know, you can hear it goes bump. You know,
Yeah.
it's not. It's so. Steve made this instrument, so it's a double slide F. So you only have to hold the slide out about that far, and you get a really great B to F glissando. It's magnificent. It's really great.
You literally had to build a second slide trombone in order to
play one glissando.
I
But
just love
if
this
that place doesn't
dedication.
happen in the piece, it has to happen.
Right. I just love that, like, in Bartok's time, this was not a problem, and it's
No.
only the modern trombone has made it a problem.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. And so guys come up with really great solutions for it. Alan Ostrander, who played in the New York Philharmonic, used to tie a shoelace to this. So you pull this tuning slide out, and then tie a shoelace to it, and then like that, and then and then
Are you sure this shouldn't be on the audition list?
I tried it. It doesn't work. It didn't work for me. But then when Jeff Reynolds and Roger Bobo were together in the Los Angeles Philharmonic, the tuba doesn't do anything at that particular place. So he'd pull his tuning slide out, and he'd say, "Okay, so as soon as I start doing this, you push the slide in."
I love. And meanwhile, Bartok was like, I don't understand. The instruments used to be fine. Like, this was. It's, you know what? It's really nice that for once it's not the composer's fault that there's a completely pain in the butt thing happening with the
It's
instrument.
extinct instrument, and I don't know if we do Concerto for Orchestra again. I'll probably try to figure out it because this slide actually did have a handle on it originally. Mm-hmm. It didn't come with it; they lost it or something.
So so next time we do Concerto for Orchestra, we're gonna watch and see if our tuba players are helping you push in on the back, or you're doing it.
I always thought about trying to do that, but you don't want to make somebody else responsible for your thing. So.
I think it would be a great prank to play on a new tuba player.
Okay.
It's like, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Push in the tuning slide, and then it just falls to the floor. I can't think of a better way to end this episode. So thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Serena.